I'm not here to preach doom and gloom and pole reversal. We're here, the Guardian Alliance, the Emerald Order, to stop it from happening. Because if we don't, the other groups involved with this planet would dearly love to see it happen. Because it would release a lot of the real estate for their control. And the few human groups that did survive, they could be the saviors for. And they could put themselves up as little demigods again. And they could raise you the way they want to. The E-LAi family that I represent is very, very disgusted at this point. Because all of the other family members that claim to, we're not on the dark side, we really care about human evolution, we just like to make it go a little slower, let's maybe hybridize them with the Anunnaki a little bit more to make sure they don't have the 12-strand potential. These guys are terrified of you getting your 12-strand back because you'll be equal to them and then you're going to realize what was done to you and you're not going to be happy with them. If they were trying to help, they would be trying to help stop the pending pole reversal here, rather than some of them are teaching you how to deal with it after the fact. Or they're just simply trying to teach you, planet Earth is going to turn into a star and raise into the fourth dimension and poof, we all go into light. Yeah, poof. You know? I mean, yes, the planet will evolve into the fourth dimensional frequencies and then higher. But it's not supposed to be done by a poof, because if that poof happens, it's not what is being presented. And the Galactic Federation, by the way, is the one telling us that this is going to happen. They used to be part of our group. They used to be part of the High Council of E-LAi. And they decided that we got sick of the mess of human evolution here. We'll help certain strains, but we think they'd be better off being hybridized with the Anunnaki strains, the Anu Melchizedeks in particular. We'll help them to develop 11 strands, not 12. And of course, at the same time, by hybridizing those two groups, it will give the Anunnaki the 12-strand potential while it dilutes it in us. Not exactly fair. They were kicked out of the Emerald Order councils because of that. They're doing ascension trainings these days. They're not bad guys. They will help some of the race get through this. You're better off dealing with them than going through. If we are not successful in the grid work we do, there's a very strong possibility we will be facing, if not simply extreme weather conditions, we could be facing something we don't have to even worry about because it will happen so fast we won't even remember. Not having to release the seals the last time, it wasn't going to matter anyway. But at least it blocked the negative ones from coming through into Mintaka. So a lot of the negative guys like to say, yeah, but you guys made the poles reverse way back then. You're bad guys. Look what you did to the human race back then. You know? Excuse me. It was going to happen anyway. Because what they had done the last time, the negative side did this. They know these grid mechanics too. You're dealing with D11 avatars that decided they didn't want to play with the law of one. They wanted to be creator gods unto themselves. So you're not dealing with dummies here. When you deal with the dark side, there are some really big dark siders. They wanted to make it so their legions down here, that means their legions that are more in solid embodiments, would be able to access and infiltrate the stargates. So they did grid mechanics that made the stellar bridge ground on a 10 cold pulse, which means there were two frequency bands out of the spiral that could not ground. They back up in the atmospheric fields. They throw the magnetic balances completely off on the planet. They do this because it's more important to the negative side to get the territory and to get control of the stargates than it is whether anything lives on the planet or not. This is where they're coming from. Dominion, expendable resources. Humans, to them, are expendable resources. Just like our military. Wonder where we got that program. Okay. Human beings are not expendable unless you happen to be coming from a perspective that values power and dominion more than true understanding. That teaches us a lot about our military. A lot of good people give their lives in service of the fact that they think war is going to bring peace. Never will. Only temporary. Only temporary till it comes back on you. But anyway, the last time when they grounded it on a 10 code pulse, they did a number of things besides pole reversal and the mess that it made. It made it so this Earth grid could only process 10 out of 12 frequencies. You could not, as a consciousness on the planet, fully activate your own Maharic shield because it would block out those other two frequencies. The two frequency bands that were blocked out were those of the 8th dimension and those of the 12th dimension. This these particular dimensions, to block those out, is how you sever your connection to Source. It's how you sever your connection at D12, between D12 and D13. When you go into D13, 14, and 15, you're dealing with the level of personal identity or planetary identity. That's called Orishi. It's a collective. Well, the avatars of the Elohim family that decided they didn't want to have to listen to anybody anymore about the law of one, disconnected themselves at D12, and then they disconnected themselves from something called the monadic imprint. It's connected to D8, and it goes through into the ascended levels, into something called the monadic imprint, which is the original imprint of your God seed pattern, your first individuation from Source. The way they created independence for themselves, where they could become creator gods and make their own little legions and their own little universes, was by severing the 8th and the 12th dimensional frequencies out of their consciousness, out of their morph field, out of their DNA. They have 10-code DNA because of it. They grounded the stellar bridge on a 10-code pulse so their biologies could go through. Because if they tried to go through the halls of Amenti on a 12-code, they'd incinerate. Because they don't have in their bodies the receptors to pull in the 8th and 12th frequencies. They didn't care, and they still don't care, that if this ascension cycle, Stargate opening cycle, commences under a 10 code, it's going to wipe out most things on the planet. They do not care. You're just an expendable resource to them. They want the Stargates, they want the access it'll give them, and they'd also like to use this as a petri dish some more. And if there's anything left after the mess, we'll hybridize it. That's not the original plan. That's not the Emerald Covenant. It's not the Paladorian Covenant that got you all here in the first place. When we did the energy work, a lot of people that were going, boy, you guys are weird. We're out there doing toning and doing grid mechanics that even the police came out to visit us on the beach that night. What are you doing? Because we were moving around in a circle singing Uriah Kumnare. And very sincere, what is this group of wild people out here? There's, I think, like 25 of us or something like that. We also had a group up in New York and a couple of other groups that were synchronizing with us. What we had to do was block a 10-code pulse that was coming down. It was being sent from Bermuda through Montauk. Because Montauk is a base, underground base, that's used for, primarily these days, for electromagnetic pulse transmission of the not so nice kind. It's a receiver for what's being sent out from the Bermuda bases in the Bermuda Triangle area. They're controlling a lot of things through these spaces that we never hear anything about, and they'll deny to the hilt. Like, go ahead and ask the government, see where you get. What bases? What EM pulse? We don't know about EM pulses, right?